Good morning all, welcome to this Licensing 2003 Act Subcommittee. The first item of business on the agenda is to elect a chair for this meeting. Members, would you like to propose someone to be chair for this meeting, please?
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I'll propose Councillor Braddon.
I second it.
Any other nominations? No? Lovely. Thank you. As long as you accept Councillor Braddon, you are now chair for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming today. And just to remind you, we have the press with us today, so the public can see what our activities today. So item 2 on the agenda is introductions and the procedure. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. I am Councillor Anna Bradnam. I'm one of the members for Milton and Waterbeach Ward.
I'm Councillor Corinne Garvey, and I'm the Councillor for Girton, Drudgery and Mattingley.
Thank you.
Councillor Jose Hales for the Melbourne Ward.
Thank you. Let's go round the table, so thank you.
I'm Chloe Mappledorham. I'm environmental health practitioner in the environmental waste team here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brooke O'Neill and I'm the Licensing Technical Officer.
Brooke's had a long morning. Yeah. So good morning, I'm Rachel Jackson. I'm the Principal Officer for Licensing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Hayley Cousins. I'm a Business Support Officer for Licensing.
Thank you very much. And sorry, I should have asked you to introduce yourself first, but do go ahead. Thank you very much.
Kira Mbai from Democratic Services.
Thank you.
Paul Weller, I'm the legal advisor to the panel this morning.
Thank you. And
Aaron Clark, Democratic Services Technical Officer. Chair, could I just ask if you going to remind people, please use your microphones when speaking, please, just because this is broadcast out loud to the public and they can't hear you if you don't turn the microphone on. So just the right-hand button, please. Thank you.
Okay. I'll try and remind you to use your microphones. Okay. So first, does anybody have any declarations of interest amongst the members? No?
Chair, I don't have a declaration of interest per se, but as I announced there, I'm the councillor for Melbourne, so this premises falls into my ward. I'd just like to state that I don't know the applicant, I haven't been to the premises, and I come to this application unpredetermined and with a fresh eyes.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hales. So welcome everyone, and thank you for attending. So we hold this hearing as a discussion, and I'd like everyone to treat everybody with all the due respect that you would normally expect in a discussion. We'll be able to ask questions of all parties, and we'll be advised by our legal advisor, Paul Weller, and I believe Aaron Clark will be clerking the meeting, or is that Kira? So Kira Ryby will be clerking the meeting, taking the notes of the meeting. So, firstly, I'd particularly like Mr. Thake just to explain. You've served the notice, and you've said you want the extra hours on top of your existing licence, but would you specify to us exactly what is the area that your current licence actually covers, the actual footprint of what your licence covers, and what area the 10 applies to, if you'd be so kind. I'm sorry, we haven't got a map in front of us, but if you could explain, that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's the inside of the building. It's all licensing area, and where we want to do the 10, we've got a little base at the back. We want to do a small marquee there till I think it's 1 AM, and then inside the courtyard till later on.
Okay, so I have looked at the map, and I'm aware that you have, when you look at the Coach House Hotel from the A505, there's according to Google, a children's play area on a field to the left, but that's not the area that you're talking about. And I noticed that there's a field behind, but those aren't the areas that you're considering?
It's the courtyard in between all the rooms
Okay.
where it'd be laid, and out the back behind the rooms.
Is there a field out there?
Yeah, 5 acre field.
Madam, if I may assist at the moment, I notice Mr. Thake hasn't got a copy of the bundle with him. I've let him have my plan B. But within the bundle, there's a map. Can I ask you to mark the area on here, sir?
Yeah.
That will probably assist members in understanding the geography.
So I haven't got the glasses.
I've lent you mine, but they probably
map,
wouldn't.
isn't it? You can't really see it.
Hmm?
You see, there's a courtyard there.
Yep.
That's where we plan to have it, just there. So it's behind the buildings.
So
We do have a small one out here, and that's till 1 a.m.
a small what out there?
Marquee out there with a little beer tent, but that's always finished early. The late one is just in there.
So the area covered by the temporary event notice is going to be
Outside.
there and there.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Well, that's what we, but it's getting the,
But
so if I mark that area there, that's going to be for what?
they're the music there.
I go like music, and there's a marquee.
Yeah, there's just for an overspill. They sit out there.
What sort of area am I looking at?
It's only twice the size of this little area here.
Okay, so if I put the marquee, if I put an area
Yeah, that's it. It's about there.
like that,
Yep.
if I call that, using basic language, a beer tent,
Yep.
that
And
was,
they have a bit of DJ music, but they don't have it that loud out there. It's just an overflow while they want the DJs to come in.
so it's background music.
Sometimes it's a bit loud when that depends who's playing it.
Yeah, okay, let's put that like that. You happy with that there?
Yeah.
And what's that building in between?
Rooms. And all the rooms are let out to the people that come to the music, so there's no guests.
Other than,
Yeah.
Madam, if I can come round behind the table and join the three of you.
That's a better picture.
Technology. Okay. That area in the middle there, the courtyard, is where the main event is going to take place. That area there, it is basically a beer marquee, which may have some DJ music in there.
Where the white bit is, that'd be on there.
Yeah, those are rooms, but they are let only to those attending the event.
What I mean is that there is a walkway between here, but this is not.
Yeah.
The walkway will be round the outside. Do you have a point, Aaron?
No, I don't think we do. I think that's the only thing we don't.
Large stick.
Broom handle.
Yes.
That might help, perhaps.
If we can put it up there, that might help.
Just ask. So this is a gap, isn't it, between?
Yeah, there's a little gap there.
So will
that's it.
people walk through there to get to
No,
the beer tent?
no,
How
they
will
go that way.
They'll go that way.
Only that way they go. That way's blocked off, so they can't go that way.
I'm going to disconnect that, jokes.
feet fit walking all the way out there.
It's all right. Can you just, I imagine that this only is your current licensed premises,
Yeah.
because that's the hotel itself.
Yeah, all that
So is
bit's
it
a
all of
restaurant.
that
Yeah, the
range?
restaurant. All the bit across the front.
But not including this. This is a
No.
range of.
Their rooms.
So it's from here across to there,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
but not going back into here.
No,
Okay, so that's the hotel and the restaurant there.
that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
you got it. Yeah, that's it.
On the screen now, is it clearer vision? Where the plan is here, thank you.
Which one is that?
Sorry. Just one on the screen. It'll come back.
Okay, so we can see it on this one. What are we looking at in that photograph on the right-hand side? Mr. Fake.
That right side is the back of the hotel. If you go where the fountain is, you go to the main road. Yeah, that goes into the main building. Yeah, that's over the other side. Yeah.
That's the bit that you said that would be blocked off.
Yep.
And you're saying that the market, so the courtyard that we're looking at is where you're
Yeah.
asking if where the 10 is
Yeah.
applying to.
Yeah.
The car park is behind us.
Yep.
And you're saying that the people would go behind us around the
Building.
end of the building,
Yeah.
where is the car park, and then round back
Yeah.
to the beer market.
But but we do the beer inside as well. But
It's an overspill marquee.
yeah.
Was word.
Thank you for that.
Madam,
And
say,
that always finishes about 12:30, 1 o'clock out there from that one.
So you've already got one out there?
No, not yet.
But you're saying it always finishes?
No, but when they have it, they always finish outside 12:30, 1 o'clock.
So there has been it's been used regularly?
They, Tracy, she likes the event twice a year. That's all we have it.
Sorry, who's Tracy?
The lady who runs the event.
Who's not your employee?
No, that's the she. Soul people. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I do apologise. Sorry, I was to clarify to people who are listening online, if there are any, I've just been asking Mr. Thake, he said that the overspill marquee was used regularly, and I was asking under what circumstances. And I think I understood you to say, Mr. Thake, that the lady in question who is referred to in the title of the event that you want to run,
Yeah.
which is She Gives You Joy,
That's
thank you. She is the lady who runs those events. Right, thank you. Okay, so now I'd like to ask Miss Mapplethorpe if you could explain the nature of your...
Madam, sorry, we spoke about this slightly earlier and I forgot to mention that the licensing officer's prepared a report. She should open with that. And because this is a notice given by the premises, it will be licensing, environmental services, I was going to say application, it's not quite, but they've brought it to the matter. So licensing officer will give their report. We'll hear the details of the objection, and then we'll hear from the applicant, or from the premises. Say these are unusual hearings, so we've got to get the terminology right, and I may not do so every time.
We'll all try and get it as right as we can. So if Ms Mapplethorpe could present her report, that would be most helpful. Thank you. Oh, sorry, the licensing officer, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman.
Ms Brooke
I knew
O'Neill.
what you meant. So, for the background, on the 4th of August 2022, Mr. Thake submitted a temporary event notice. This is attached as Appendix A. The event is described as follows: It's for the 17th of September 2022. The nature of the event is a soul night. And the licensable activities include the sale by retail of alcohol for consumption on the premises and relevant entertainment, which is music. The licensable times requested, which are 11 p.m. until 4 a.m. The premises license already covers from 11 p.m. till 4 a.m. The premises license already covers from 11 a.m. till 11 p.m. The number of people in attendance at any one time is 400 people. A map of the area for intended use is attached as Appendix
Sorry, just a
B.
moment. This is doing it of its own volition, apologies, but it is quite noisy.
Okay.
Would you like to carry on?
A statutory noise nuisance was confirmed by Environmental Health on the 22nd of August 2021, and subsequently a noise abatement notice was served on the applicant, Mr. David Thake, on the 10th of September 2021. This notice was not appealed and is attached as Appendix C. The temporary event notice was sent to Environmental Health and the police on the 4th of August, which was the same day that the tender was received. On the 5th of August 2022, an objection was received from Environmental Health. There was no objection from the police. This is attached as Appendix D of the report. Section 104 of the Licensing Act 2003 provides that where a relevant person, i.e. the Chief Officer of Police or the Environmental Health Service, are satisfied that allowing a premises to be used in accordance with the temporary event notice would undermine a licensing objective, that relevant person is required to give notice, so in this case an objection notice, stating the reasons for being so satisfied. So in this case the licensing objective is the prevention of public nuisance. In circumstances where an objection notice has been given and not withdrawn, and the licensing authority has determined not to give a counter notice under Section 105, the authority may impose one or more conditions on the standard temporary event notice if A. The authority considers it appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. If the conditions are already imposed on the premises licence that has effect in respect of the premises. C. The conditions would not be inconsistent with the carrying out of the licensable activities under the temporary event notice. The subcommittee is asked to determine the notification of this 10 under Section 105 of the Licensing Act, and the subcommittee may either A. Issue the counter notice, B. Impose conditions on the temporary event notice, or C. Grant the notice. That concludes my introduction, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms O'Neill. So, Mr Weller, I'm assuming we now take the report from the Environmental Health.
Unless anybody has any questions of the licensing officer by way of clarification. Yes, madam.
Thank you very much. So, members, do you have any questions? Right, okay, so would you like to give us your report, Ms Mapplethorpe?
Thank you, Chair. So in May 2021, it goes back that far that I've been involved with the case. We had a notification of a temporary event notice for multiple dates in July 2021. However, only one was granted because it was an invalid application for the subsequent 3. So the events that weren't covered by the temporary event notices still went ahead, and subsequently we received a number of complaints from people in the local area. After we received a number of those complaints, we started an investigation for statutory nuisance, and the licence holder was advised of this. A late temporary event notice was actually applied for again in August for another event later that month, which was not objected to. However, the complainants that we already had were given the Noise App details.
This is August 2021.
21, sorry, yes, August 2021. The event went ahead with the temporary event notice in place, and we received a number of recordings on the Noise App, which were extremely excessive noise. I think the last recording we had was at 2:10 in the morning, which was stated that on the application it said the music would be going inside at 1:30. These recordings were after 2 o'clock and they were still excessive. We could tell where the recordings were taking place because we have a GPS locator on that app. And yeah, it was excessive.
Would it be helpful to listen to that particular recording now?
I don't believe we need to, because the noise abatement notice was made based on the evidence that we had at the time, which was the Noise Act recordings. The procedure was followed and a noise abatement notice was served as a result of that. So I don't believe that we need to. I don't know that we can.
Can I just ask members, would you like to hear the noise? Because it would put it in context for us, but...
Chair, through you, I would appreciate input from the legal side of this, because we've already had an explanation from environmental. Yeah.
Madam, my concern is, as the Environment and Health Officer says, is that but the noise recording had an outcome in that an abatement notice was issued. Therefore, by the issue of an abatement notice, the determination is that your officers deemed it to be a statutory nuisance. Yep. Whether or not, if you hear it, it's going to take away from, or may take away from that decision. The reality is that the noise on that occasion was such that your officers issued a noise abatement notice, having deemed a statutory nuisance being committed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weller. So, thank you very much. Would you like to carry on?
Thank you. So subsequently, the noise abatement notice was issued on the 10th of September 2021 on Mr. David Thake. This was not appealed. 21 days are given for appeal, and we didn't receive an appeal or any contact from Mr. Thake at all. There was a subsequent event on the 18th of September 2021, which I monitored, and it did go ahead with no excessive noise. So I sent a letter to Mr. Thake thanking him for that, and it was obvious that an event could take place without excessive noise. So we closed our case at the end of September 2021, as we had no further complaints at that time. In June 2022, a temporary event notification was received for later that month, 25th to 26th of June, clearly stating that they would go inside at 1:30, assuming that, and that was in relation to the music. We had no objections from the business support officer. It wasn't passed to me for consultation at that point. I noticed on the 16th of June that internal process had not been followed, and therefore the temporary event notice had been applied for, which is why I then reminded Mr. Thake that he had a noise abatement notice in place. I didn't have any contact from Mr. Thake as a result of that letter. The event took place at 25th, 26th of June 2022. Noise Act recordings were received. Again, the last one was after 2 o'clock in the morning and was extremely loud. It was excessive, and the GPS location showed where the recordings were taken. Further complaints from 3 of the original complainants came into us following that event, and as such I started an investigation into a breach of the noise abatement notice, and that starts with diary sheets going out to the complainants, which is part of the similar process to when we start a noise investigation. An event was organised on the 9th of July 2022. The event went ahead and there was no excessive noise as it finished at 9 o'clock in the evening. Complainants said that there was no issues with that one. I was due to monitor the premises on the 30th of July as there was a festival advertised called WR Fest, due to go till 1 o'clock in the morning. That event did not occur. I did put noise equipment in some complainants' property, and that wasn't required. On the 4th of August 2022, I was consulted upon in relation to the temporary event notification for the 17th of September, where the music is required until 4 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't specified in the application whether it was outside or inside. However, in my opinion, 400 people would not fit inside the property, and therefore I objected to the application or the notification due to the excessive noise that had been experienced previously and the noise abatement notice being breached. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have some questions. So the noise abatement notice remains in place once it's been served?
That's right, yes.
Okay. The second thing was that on the 10 notification on the 8th of June 2022, for the 25th and 26th of June 2022, you said that the report says that there are no objections from there were no objections from the business support officer, but it wasn't passed to environmental health for consultation. Should that have been done?
Yeah, the business support officer is part of environmental health. If the application includes hours after 11 o'clock, it should come to me. It didn't, okay. Which is why I then reminded Mr. Thake that the abatement notice was still in place.
Madam, if I can at that point, insofar as that is concerned, the history is that a temporary event notice was received. No objections were made to it. Whatever the reason for no objections were made.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to check whether that was just normal procedure, that it should go, and that would appear to be the case. Thank you very much. The other thing I wanted to ask, but I just wanted to be careful about it, and I'll ask legal first. Would it be acceptable to ask, we have reference to the 26th of June, and that noise app recordings were received, and the last one was at 02:11, and the GPS location shows the complainant at their own property. Is it reasonable to ask where that property is?
Insofar as, I suppose, proximity.
For example, has that person asked for them to be remaining anonymous? Or
at the moment, I don't know if there's an investigation undergoing or what the state of the investigation is. All I can say is if there is an investigation undergoing, we are not at the end of the period by which proceedings need to be commenced. So it can be treated as ongoing.
It's just that
I suppose the relevance is, rather than identifying the property, proximity within
the locality.
50 metres, 100 metres, whatever, 200 metres, something along those lines, if you can give an indication, Madam.
I'm not sure I would be able to give an indication. However, in terms of statutory nuisance, one person or 100 people can be affected. Yes. And if it's deemed to be a statutory nuisance at that property, then it is a statutory nuisance.
So would it be, I will ask you first, so I won't ask, are we talking about premises on this side of the road or on that side of the road? Is that reasonable to ask?
Madam, that might give an indication that would assist you. Say because there's there may well be an ongoing. I don't want to go too deeply into it.
Chairman,
okay.
may I just...
Can I just ask, is it on the south side of the A505 or was the complainant on the north side?
May I just say that when investigating statutory nuisances, if we monitor from a property, we are likely to go to the nearest affected property. So we did have 5 complainants, both north of that road and south. Okay. But the recordings would be taken from the nearest property.
Okay, that's helpful. So In
but I
fact,
can't identify which properties
that's
were
fine.
involved.
So, but in fact, complaints were received from both sides.
Both sides, yes.
Okay, that's great. Did you have anything? Councillor Hales?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I might take you back to the 29th of September entry in that your report. It says about the noise abatement notice still stands, which I accept fully. Could you explain why and for how long that stands, please?
A noise abatement notice, it doesn't have an end date. It will stay for forever, unless the person who owns the property changes, or yeah, I think that's probably the only way that would, because it was served on this person at that premises, so it's an unending notice.
Another question, Chair. And I'm going to look at the legal advisor as I ask the question, and he'll tell me no or yes. On page 1, it's with the 25th of July 2021, where it says 5 complaints, and above that makes reference to the TENS licence that covered one of those 4 events. 3 were unlicensed, essentially. My question, Mr. Weller, would be, was any action taken by the authority for the 3 that were not?
It would appear from what the officer has said, the outcome of those complaints was the issue of the noise abatement notice. That's correct, isn't it?
Can I just clarify, you relating to the fact that the events went ahead without the temporary event notices? That's out of my remit, so I believe that he was spoken to by the licensing team.
Thank you very much.
Clarify a point there. I had questions on that as well. Given that 110 was submitted for 4 dates, it was used for 1 date, but the other 3 events carried on without being licensed. Did the officers at that point address that with Mr. Fake, that he needed to submit 3 more 10s for the other events?
Yes, so when we received the notification of a 10 with the 4 dates on, Mr. Fake was advised that he could not use that temporary event notice for all 4 dates and must apply for 3 separate ones.
But he didn't?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm afraid we did, because we paid for them as well. We applied for 3 separate ones once we was told we couldn't do it on one.
So you maintain that when you were told that your 10 had been filled out incorrectly, you submitted 3 more 10s?
Yeah, my daughter done it online.
They weren't, the
them.
licensing office didn't receive them. Did you
Right.
do it online?
I presume she did. That's what she normally does. And we paid for them, as far as I know. I'll have to check when I get back on the bank account, but I'm sure they went out.
Okay, so you maintain that you did apply for a further 3 10s, but licensing says they didn't receive them. Okay.
I know the one that we got the noise abatement for was a drum and bass night, which we'd never have again because they ripped us off. No,
because what?
They ripped us off. They told us the noise wouldn't be too loud and that, and we couldn't make them stop. They were getting very aggressive, so we got rid of them.
Okay. Which one was that? Can you remember what date that was?
That's the one the young lady gave us a noise abatement for.
Okay. Right. So, yes, was that the 10th of September one? Yes. That was when it was so late?
Yes.
Okay. Right, okay.
Chairman, does licensing want a right of reply about those notices?
Would the licensing officer like to comment about the assertion from Mr. Thake that he did send in further 10s?
Yeah, so This
would have been the July 2021.
I don't think that we received them.
Okay, thank you. Right, so have the officers any further explanations or clarifications to make? Do we have any further clarifications to request from the officers? So, Mr. Thake, would you like to put your point of view?
Well, we only have, only have 2 events a year, usually June and September.
Sorry, could you bring your microphone a little bit closer?
sorry.
And I know we're here in a room, but there'll be other people who are listening elsewhere. So if you could speak clearly, that's great.
The She event, they only want 2 every year, like in June, September, and they're the only 2 late nights we have, because everything else we have is always done by midnight.
So
we have an East Fest there, and they had one. They said it was finished like at 9 o'clock, so it must have been quiet because it didn't finish till 11. So, you know, all them other events are always done by 12 o'clock. It's just those 2 events. That's all she wants a year. And a couple of the people who've complained about them, we've offered to put them in a hotel in Cambridge or wherever they want with meals for the night. And they said, no, we'll be fine. So I don't know what else we can do to please them, you know what I mean?
So the event that you've applied for, the She, let's call it the She event, for the 17th of September,
Yeah.
What can I just ask why, given that you've had concerns about noise late at night on previous occasions, why are you applying until 4 o'clock?
The last one was 3:30, so we thought we'd just do it till 4 and make sure everything's cleared up, because they just play background music while they're clearing up. So I thought I'd better do it till 4 to make sure it's covered.
But knowing that you've had complaints about noise, and the last one was at after 2 o'clock in the morning, did you not think it would be better to finish it?
How loud it was.
Did you not think it would be better to finish it earlier?
Because I thought the law was 107 decibels, and they want to keep it at 95. So,
can I just ask for the environmental health practitioner to speak to us about that?
In terms of statutory nuisance, there is no decibel level limit. It could be very low decibel level and still be a statutory nuisance.
yeah, but the thing is, you have festivals, they're noisy, people know that. You have them all over the country. Does that mean everybody will get theirs cancelled if they're near people? You know, that's what I can't understand.
The principle
we've
is
got
not
8 houses that are close to us. That's all we've got.
Yeah, but there are 8 houses, and any one of them is entitled
Yeah.
to enjoy peaceful enjoyment of
It's
their
annoying
own
because we've asked them
Mr.
before.
Fake, when I'm speaking,
Sorry.
I would appreciate it if you would wait. Thank you. Mr. Doran, would you like to explain the nature of the public nuisance?
Yes, statutory nuisance is a subjective assessment based on a number of things, not just the level of noise, but the number of people affected, the locality. In my opinion, a festival of this nature is not, it's inappropriate when you've got houses in that close proximity to that time in the morning.
And can you confirm if Mr. Fake's assertion that there are only 8 properties, residential properties close by, is that correct?
I haven't counted how many properties are close by. I can say that we have had complaints from 5 separate properties. Some are not willing to make a complaint because they don't wish to go through that process. But yeah, we were contacted by 5.
And I just did a quick tot-up on Google Maps this morning, and it seemed to me there are a total of about 21 buildings. Some of them may just be business premises, but quite close to the Coach House Hotel. Mr. Thake, I asked you why you chose to go to put your 10 until 4 o'clock in the morning when you knew you had an abatement notice and you knew you'd had complaints before. Can you just explain that point?
Well, we didn't know we had complaints on the last do until you apply for another 10.
But your 10 applies until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just asking why you didn't ask to finish it earlier.
Well, we didn't think we had a complaint for the last one because we weren't told, but apparently you don't find out until you apply for another 10.
Okay.
You know, it'd be nice if they told us straight away.
Right. So we've got the situation where we know that there are around about 20 other properties nearby. Some are not residential, but we have had, there have been complaints from 5 and contact from 8 at different times about different events that you've had at your property. Can I just ask you whether you recognise that the events that you've had do cause a nuisance at all?
Yeah, I know that.
Sorry, Madam. There was an incident, or there was an event that took place at the end of June. Environmental Services are, or may well be undertaking an investigation. You are potentially asking the premises to confirm whether or not he is aware that an abatement notice was breached in a public hearing, which may well be deemed to be an admission of guilt. I think you need to tread carefully down that route, Madam. Sorry.
Thank you very much. No, that's good advice. Thank you. Okay. So, members, have we any further questions?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So, Councillor.
Morning, Mr. Thape. I'm very familiar with the area, actually, obviously, since it's my patch. There aren't that many residential properties in that area. It is mainly commercial.
Sorry,
I said there aren't many residential properties in that area, and they are mainly commercial. I'm quite interested as to the cut-off point. Either 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning seems to be quite late for an event period, especially when it starts at 1 o'clock, I think it was, in the afternoon. From what you said earlier, it seems to be out of your control, i.e. this is somebody running an event on your premises, but I would imagine that you benefit from that. So there is some element of control that I would have expected, and I suppose my colleagues would expect you to exert. So we've also heard, which was a surprise to me, that there is no noise level, upper limit, whatever, for nuisance. So that was a learning curve this morning. The music is played inside the premises with music spilling outside, or is it
In the courtyard.
in the courtyard, so it's at the full volume as it would be indoor?
Yeah, it'd be 95 decibels, but they say it's a nuisance, but what can I do?
Right, so, okay. So there's no, because I can actually understand if you have music quite loud. Yeah. Would you mind turning your mic off, because we cancel each other out, yeah? Thanks. It's the right-hand button. There you go. So I can understand if there's music played indoors, windows and doors shut and what have you, is the usual requirement, if I recall. The impact outside would be reduced as a result. But if you have the volume of the music the same in and out, then that is a fairly significant impact. And I wonder, is there any control over that from your side with the person, she, is it the lady? Whether there's any control from you over that to reduce the volume outside? Is there dancing and stuff outside in the courtyard, or is it just people sitting around drinking and talking?
They call it dancing, but they just sort of jig around and have a drink. But we could, I spoke to about like putting the music inside with if we had the windows open so it deadens the noise so the music comes out that way. That'd take the edge off the music. I don't know what you think on that one. I'm sorry.
That's what I was thinking, actually, because when you look at the layout of your courtyard, if the windows or doors to the rear of the building were open from the premises and the music was played out that way, with no outside speakers, there is a potential for impact for the noise to bounce back to the main building. And I'm going to be probably looking at the environmental, Chloe, for guidance on this, but it kind of makes sense if there was no outside speakers, that would drastically reduce the impact on the environment.
I can't imagine that the event that is proposed is likely to be done from inside if you're having 400 guests.
Now there's 300. They're not going to go more than 300.
And the music will be played outside.
Well, if we do like
Outside the building, so within the
it would
courtyard.
be normally, but as I'm suggesting, if we put the music inside, then people would be inside and the rest of them would be outside, if you know what I mean. So you get half of them would go inside and half would be outside, but the music would be actually inside.
But my concern is that there are also residential premises to the north of you. So it's not just residential premises to the south. And there would be a need to clarify speakers would all need to be.
Councillor, sorry, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt on you. The discussion may well be interested, but you have limited options on this application because we're dealing with a temporary event notice. It's either approved or or there's no temporary event, or you can add on the conditions that already appear on the premises licence. You can't add other conditions to suit the event, as it were. So you can only use the conditions that are currently on the premises licence.
One other thing, I just wanted to ask you.
Sorry, madam.
Do we adjourn to make our decision, or do we make our decision in?
As always on these things, we retire to private to make the decision.
Thank you. Okay. Can you remind us what the current premises licence are that, as Mr. Weller has explained, we might apply in addition? I think they're pretty minimal, aren't they, at the moment? It's just supply of alcohol to 2,300, roughly speaking, and that it's open to the public. So do you want to explain?
Thank you, Chair. So it's just the mandatory conditions on the licence, and the reason being is there is only the supply of alcohol as a licensable activity.
So actually, going back to the suggestion that Councillor Hales was sort of perhaps working towards this, that wouldn't help us, would it, in this situation? Okay, and Mr. Weller has helpfully reminded us that we can only either agree with this licence or object to it or add conditions as we've described. That wouldn't necessarily help in this case. Sorry.
It's for licensing, if I may, through you, Chair. Just to clarify, with the premises licence as it is for the main building, there is no entertainment licence, there's no playing of music licence, there's no nothing. It is literally
just the
alcohol.
Supply of alcohol. Yes.
Okay. So, do you have any further questions? No. Okay. Councillor Hales, do you have any further questions?
None that I can now ask.
Mr. Thake, do you want to make any further representations to us before we think about our decision?
We had these events before lockdown and there was never no complaints. It's only since certain people have moved in near a licensed premises that we've had complaints. But they knew what happens at licensed premises before they move in. So what are we meant to do?
With all due respect, Mr. Thake, your licensed premises are licensed for sale of alcohol.
No, but when we do the temporary events, you know, it's always been the same. And I know one of them who's complained, when she was with a different boyfriend, he loved it. But now she's got a different boyfriend, he complains all the time.
I think it's inappropriate to bring individual personal matters into this. So, members, I think we'll retire to consider our decision now. Thank you very much to everybody who's presented to us. Thank you very much, Mr. Thake, for putting your point. And we'll try not to take too long, but we'll come to a decision as soon as we can.
Madam, if I can, before you retire, just one or two probably general words of advice rather than specific words of advice, some of which I've said already. But the issue before you this morning is with regard to the temporary event notice only, as within the documentation. Madam, you've heard that there have been issues in the past. Those may or may not be subject to enforcement action. The earlier ones do not appear to be subject to enforcement action for whatever reason, but the reality is that you can take, the issues you consider is, one, that there is an abatement notice in place dealing with noise. Two, noise is a difficult area. There's always heavy reliance upon, within the wider community, upon decibel levels. A statutory nuisance is based against the ambient noise, ambient background noise. Yes. Is that the right terminology?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's part of the assessment, but yeah.
Yeah. So, a loud noise in a noisy environment is not a statutory nuisance. A loud noise within a quiet environment is a statutory nuisance. There was stats issued some time back about the noise coming from tennis players at Wimbledon, which at any event could have been deemed to be a statutory nuisance only because centre court was quiet. Because it's a temporary event notice, your options are limited. The first one, according to the report, is issue a counter notice. Basically, a counter notice is a notice saying the event can't go ahead. You can impose conditions on a temporary event notice, but you can only impose conditions that currently exist on the premises licence, because this temporary event notice is limited to a premises. Or you can grant the notice, and those are the only three options available to you. Madam, unless there's anything else in particular I can help you or your colleagues with.
Thank you. Thank you, that's very helpful to have that summarised. Two things I want to clarify. When the environmental health practitioner pointed out that there is no limit on the noise when it constitutes a statutory nuisance, that meant there is no lower limit. So it can be incredibly quiet, but if it's loud compared to the ambient noise at the time, that can be just as disruptive as a loud noise in a loud environment. And just to clarify, the only conditions we could apply must be some which pre-exist on the current licence, and the current licence is only for alcohol. So we don't have any conditions.
Madam, that is correct.
Councillor Hales.
Through you, Chair, to Mr. Weller. Mr. Weller, am I at liberty to ask Mr. Thake a question at this time or not?
A what question?
Mr. Thake, am I allowed to ask Mr. Thake another question at this point?
It's important that when you make a decision, you have all relevant information before you. So, yes.
In that case, Mr. Thake, on the previous SHE events and what have you, and you're talking about 300 people invited or attending, tickets sold. How many people are there at 3 o'clock in the morning by comparison to how many turn up at whatever time it starts?
I should say somewhere around half.
In that case, there was a comment made in the report about the capacity of the actual main building, the pub itself. What is...
Sorry, councillor. A temporary event notice covers any event that will have up to 500 people.
No,
So that's the number that we're looking at for today.
I'm driving at something fractionally slightly different, if I may. Okay. If I overstep, you'll please step in. Essentially, what is the capacity of your pub? I mean, I understand there's a restaurant attached to the building itself.
Yeah, you can sit 70 in the restaurant and probably about 40, 50 in the bar. But when they're having that sort of event, they don't sit down, they just stand. So you could easily get 150 in the restaurant and into the bar area. Our fire regulations go to, I think it's 150, if I remember rightly.
Okay, thank you. So my question to Mr. Weller now is, given that the premises licence for alcohol only exists within the main premises, when we go into the deliberation, will we be able to consider some form of bringing the party indoors? Bringing the party indoors condition?
No, sir, you can't. You've only got those three options available to you.
Because the current licence is purely for alcohol on the premises, we can't make any other suggestions that are out with the premises conditions.
It is possible, with a view to timing, that a further application for a temporary event notice could be, or a further temporary event notice could be served, dealing with an event inside the premises before the 17th of September, but the premises is under the same constraint in that complaints or representations may well be received from environmental health and or the police. How long away is it? We're within 10 days, aren't we? So it would be a late notice.
Yes, in which case it would not go to a hearing.
Yeah. If a late notice is received, then if there is any objection from the police or environmental health, automatically the notice has a counter notice issued against it and the event does not take place.
You're trying to ruin my day. So I think what I'm trying, obviously we're here to do our job, right? But we're also here to try and be as affable as we possibly can within the system, I would hope, right? So my thoughts are that if this is something which is a potential solution...
Sir, it can't be a potential solution because you cannot tie the hands of the police or environmental services who may well raise an objection if they receive another temporary event notice.
In other words, we can only act as you've advised us, and the only way that it could be made any more likely to happen for Mr. Thake is if he submitted a late temporary event notice that described his event in a different manner.
That's correct, but on a late notice, there is no appeal to the councillors if there is any objection received.
But people could still complain, but it would then be dealt with by environmental health.
A late notice would, there would be a counter notice that would mean the event would not happen. And you'll be tying, if you can't suggest that route because you will be tying the hands of two other agencies. Only one of which is within this building.
You're taking it. What I was saying was the options available to us here today are limited.
Yes.
And as far as I can see, we haven't decided whether we'll grant or whether we'll put a counter notice. But if Mr. Thake was not successful today, his only recourse would be to submit a further 10 that described his event differently, it would not come to a panel, it would simply be considered by the officers, including the police and the licensing and environmental health officer, and it would be for them to make a decision.
Madam, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Councillor House.
In that case, that's what I was driving at. So, through you, Chair, would it be prudent that when we go into recess for our discussion now, that the licensing team, or perhaps even legal, I don't know, would explain that to the applicant in the greatest of detail and the risks involved in case our deliberation goes one way or t'other, so that the applicant is absolutely fully aware that when he leaves this building, he has all the facts at his disposal and he can make that choice himself.
I'm quite happy that the officers would, I'm sure, explain that. And I think given that we've mooted that as a possible thing that Mr. Thake might do, I'm sure you would you not?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so I think we have all the information. So when we go into our deliberations, the legal officer will stay with us, but the remaining officers will leave us, and we'll call you back in when we've made our decision, Mr. Thake. Thank you very much indeed. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, we also just ask that you inform people watching the live stream that will be ended.
Okay, people who might be watching on the live stream, the live stream will end now and we will go into confidential session. I'm just going to ask the Democratic Services Officer if it will come up again when we make our decision. No, okay. So the decision will be informed on the website and by letter to the